I woke hungry for escape. My eyes opened to gray light in a high rise that stank of mold and rotted carpet. Detroit morning or something like it. I remember I had to get south that day. South somewhere with a shaggy man, all surfer drawl and lazy grin. That guide, he was supposed to lead me across some impossible terrain. I left my apartment before dawn. There was no reason to linger. I had a bag slung over my shoulder, mostly empty. Just a bottle of water and a bundle of nerves. A cold wind blew. I tried not to notice the cracks in the sidewalks, the boarded windows, the dead hush of the street. Yet each step hammered the thought, this is wrong, this is all wrong. I found the bus stop by a shuttered grocery, metal bench, graffiti, a faint stench like old sweat and stale bread. I stood there alone. He said he'd meet me, I muttered. Said he'd show me the way. My voice echoed off the empty buildings. Soon he approached with a lopsided smile, blonde hair that fluffed in the wind, eyes squinting like we shared a secret. He waved. Hey man, he said, we better get moving. We boarded the bus. We're somewhere south, no sign on the front, no route. The driver said nothing, only watched us board. Inside, the seats were scuffed to vinyl, every window rattled. I slid in next to the guide, my body tight with dread. What if they drop us in some wasteland? I asked him. He winked. Relax, just a quick ride and then we'll figure it out. I wanted to believe him. But day after day, it repeated. Me on that bus, the guide leading me. Always heading south, yet never arriving. Evening came and I'd be back in Detroit. Next morning, the same. The same bus, the same battered seats. The same quiet driver with hollow eyes. The guide's grin. Oh, so casual. I grew to hate it. And then one day, everything broke. We stood on a lawn, ragged grass underfoot, not far from the bus station. I faced him in the cold daylight. My mouth felt dry. He said we had to go first to Minneapolis-St. Paul. Then from there, another flight to something he called Minneapolis-South. They've got to do that before we head anywhere else, he said, non-negotiable. My hands clenched. What the hell are you talking about? He shrugged. It's the route. No direct path. This is how it's done. Anger lit a fuse in my chest. You told me you'd take me south. You never said anything about Minneapolis. You never said we'd do this charade. He just shrugged again, as if his only lines were shrugs and lazy smirks. As if I'd never told him how urgent this was, how much money I'd spent, how many days I'd lost. My mouth twisted, and then I slapped him hard. The sound cracked in the stale air. My palms stung. He let out a small laugh of disbelief, pressing a hand to his cheek. Dude, he mumbled. Why? Why? I shouted. Because you lied. Because I've been stuck in this loop with you. Because you wasted my time and my money. You said you'd help. I can't do it, he whispered, eyes watering. I'm sorry. I stared at him. You have to understand. I got no more time left. No more anything. He lowered his gaze. I never had the intention, he said quietly. I was just tagging along, you know. My fist trembled. You scammed me. He gave a sad grin. Maybe, he said. But you came along all the same. I wanted to scream. Instead, I turned and marched away. I could feel him standing there, that lonely silhouette in the patchy grass. Maybe he felt shame. Maybe he felt nothing at all. That night, the dream began. I stood before a storefront under a dull sign. To the right, a music shop, shining guitars in the window. To the left, maybe a law office, its door locked and stenciled with bold letters. But my eyes fixated on the middle storefront, vacant, waiting. My heart pounded with a sudden idea, a place that was both a music studio and a law firm. Wild synergy, perfect or insane. I stepped inside. The space opened into a sports store, rows of sneakers, racks of bikes, shining metal frames. An odd hush, no staff in sight. A bike caught my eye. A triathlon bike, black carbon fiber, once mine. I hadn't sold it, but I should have. A pang of regret. Too many wasted assets, too much time poured into illusions. I pressed deeper into the store, searching for an owner or manager. No one. Just mannequins posed in cycling gear. Something about that quiet felt ominous. I wondered if the lease was up, if I could take it over. The store was so bright and clean, an oasis in a bleak world. I felt unworthy. I turned in place, hearing my own footsteps echo. Then a voice said, "It's nice, huh?" I spun. A stranger stood by the shoe racks, face half lit by fluorescent glare. He wore a plain gray suit. "You want the store?" he asked. He gave a short laugh. "Maybe it wants you, but I doubt it." I opened my mouth to speak, but the dream shimmered. The scene blurred. My stomach sank in a wave of disorientation. Then it all vanished. I woke in a high-rise that felt ancient, decaying, more like a ruin than a home. The walls were cracked, the floor coated in water. Outside the windows, I saw a flooded city stretching forever. Balconies jutted from towers like bleached bones. People leaned over railings watching. Some called to each other in hushed, urgent tones, echoing like a distant choir. My head pounded. I turned, realized my apartment had changed into a busy store, complete with shelves of cheap goods and a flickering neon sign in the corner. Strangers drifted through the aisles, rummaging. Then I spotted Christy, my old office manager. She was near the bed that I still recognized as mine. She extended a small toothbrush to someone. He wouldn't take it. He just clenched a different toothbrush in his teeth and mumbled around it. He was tall, with a worn face, eyes half-lidded, like Billy Bob Thornton in a cheap movie. Next to him stood an Asian man, silent, gaze sweeping the store. Billy Bob spoke around the toothbrush. "I want it free," he said. Christy glared. "Free? Why would we do that?" "Because it's worthless." His words slurred around the brush in his mouth. "So gimme it." Christy's eyes darted to me, then back to him. "Take it if you want," she sighed. "Just don't tell me you did." He grinned, toothbrush bobbing between his lips, and winked at the Asian man. They walked off, leaving Christy fuming. I sat up in bed, my bones aching. "Christy, why are you here? Why's my apartment?" She turned quickly. "We needed a storefront. This place is worthless, so we converted it." "Converted," I began, but she cut me off. "I need to go," she snapped and stormed off. I tried to stand, feet soaking in inch-deep water. The memory of the high-rise pressed in on me. That sense of being in a half-ruined city with water all around made my breath shallow. A moment later, I heard a shriek from upstairs. I recognized Christy's voice, wailing. My dad was there, too. He shouted her name, but she kept screaming something about losing control. My heart hammered. I stumbled across the store floor, water sloshing around my ankles. I made my way to the old stairwell. A flight up, the building turned from store into something half-finished. Exposed drywall, flickering lights. I found Christy's bedroom at the end of the hall. She was in bed, phone clenched to her ear, sobbing one minute, furious the next, some deranged argument. Then she ended the call and went slack, as if she'd forgotten everything. My dad stood there, arms folded, eyes tired. He saw me and shook his head. "We can't keep letting her do this," he whispered. "She's got problems. She won't get help." Christy glared at us. "I don't know what you heard, but I'm fine." I approached her bed. "We heard you screaming." She frowned. "No, you didn't. I was quiet the whole time." My dad looked at me, searching for a response. Part of me wanted to fire her. She'd become a weight around my neck, turning the place into chaos. But I felt worn down, unsure. Finally, I cleared my throat. "You need to change," I said, voice trembling. "We can't keep doing this. 90 days, that's all we can give." She pressed her lips tight, said nothing, just stared at me with feral eyes. I couldn't bear the look. I turned away, my own shame thick as tar. My dad let out a weary sigh. Back in the main part of the apartment, the store crowd had dispersed. The place was deserted except for the dripping water, shelves knocked over. A single overhead bulb flickered. My legs shook as I moved toward the balcony, drawn by a hush outside, a suspicion that something was wrong. I stepped out onto the concrete ledge, rusted railing. 100 feet down, the streets were flooded. Green water, thick with algae, and maybe more. The entire city glistened in diseased color like a swamp that drowned the roads. Across the gap, other balconies were lined with people, wide-eyed, pointing at something far in the distance. But my eyes blurred. I squinted, saw shapes swirling in the sky. Dark funnels twisting. Thunder boomed, echoing across the high-rises. I heard shouts from the balconies. People gasped, stepping back, some dropping to their knees. Then I saw it, a waterspout, coiling like a serpent, raking the skyline. Glass shattered in its path, windows exploding into shining daggers. A deep roar rose from the city below. A voice near me shouted, "It's coming this way." I turned, saw no one. The spout shifted, twisted, drifting closer. My gut clenched. "Where's my family?" I whispered. My dad was upstairs, I thought, but had he left, or was he somewhere else? I shouted, "Dad? Dad!" My voice vanished in the roar of wind. I sprinted inside, heart pounding. The floor under me trembled. Doors banged in unseen corners of the building. I saw the swirling figure outside, a gray funnel carrying water and debris, scraped the side of the tower. I ducked behind a counter, searching for my father. "Dad," I yelled again. No answer. Lightning flickered. The hair on my arms prickled. I bolted for the kitchen in the back. Maybe he was there, rummaging, waiting out the storm, but the kitchen was empty, just battered cabinets, water dripping from the ceiling. I slammed the door behind me, chest heaving. A monstrous howl sounded. Glass crashed on the far side of the apartment. The building shook. I fell to my knees, covering my head. My thoughts spun in circles. They're gone. I'm alone. I can't do anything. After a minute, the noise softened. Slowly, I lifted my head. The water spout had passed. I could hear it smashing into some other tower a block away. Sirens wailed in the distance. I stood, dazed, pressed one hand against the countertop. My reflection in the stainless steel fridge door showed wide eyes, soaked hair plastered to my forehead. I gasped for air, blood pounding in my temples. Next thing I knew, I found myself drifting outside again, high above the flooded streets. The wind whipped me around. I had no wings, no jetpack, yet I floated. My body felt half real, watery. When I looked at my hands, they were shifting, swirling like liquid, spinning at high speed. I was the water spout, or something like it, a vortex, a monster. I spun in place, spraying droplets across the concrete walls. Below me, the water churned, littered with debris. Papers, plastic, broken furniture. Green slime billowed through the flood like some sick chemical cloud. People on balconies screamed and pointed, but I made no sound. I drifted above them, helpless, trapped in that swirling form. I saw big canisters bobbing in the waves, oozing neon sludge. Some last-ditch effort by the city's authorities. They planned to kill the funnel by poisoning the water, but it only made things worse, just more chaos, more panic. From that vantage, I searched for my father, for Christy, for Billy Bob with the toothbrush. But the swirl consumed everything, and I was powerless to stop it. My mind ached with regret. I wanted to call out to warn them. Instead, I roared with the wind, a sound that shredded the air. Then the funnel collapsed in on itself, a fleeting storm undone. I plummeted, weightless eyes shut in terror. I woke in my bed, drenched in sweat. No store in sight, no water on the floor. Dawn light seeped through dusty blinds. Silence, except for my own ragged breathing. Detroit again. Another morning, or maybe the same day. I rose, paced the small apartment, half expecting Billy Bob to appear, or the guide who looked like Owen Wilson, or a swirl of green water and raging wind to tear through my walls. Nothing. The only sign of madness was me. My phone showed no missed calls, no messages. I pressed my palms to my eyes, trying not to think about the bus journeys, the betrayal, the worthless guide, the wasted money, Christie's meltdown, my father's lost expression, or that monstrous water spout. Instead, I dressed, drank stale coffee in the silence, and forced myself out the door, off to chase some destination that might not exist. Outside, the city greeted me with drab gray skies, the faint hum of distant traffic. My feet moved in an odd shuffle. My mind drifted to the storefront in the dream. I pictured it again, bright and open. The perfect union of music and law, a naive fantasy. But it glimmered in the back of my mind, drawing me onward with false promises. As I passed the same bus stop, my stomach knotted. I remembered slapping the guide, remembered him flinching, then that faint smirk. I wondered if I'd see him again, if he'd try to lead me somewhere else. The bench was empty, of course. I stood there a moment anyway, thinking about the long hours wasted in false travel, the swirl of illusions, the strange sense that I'd been a refugee in my own life, longing to cross some unseen border. A bus rumbled up, brakes hissing. I climbed aboard without thinking. The driver didn't meet my gaze, didn't ask for a fare. I found a seat near a window, pressed my forehead to the glass. The city scrolled by, bleak and loveless. I thought about my father. Where was he now? Had he left that night, or had the dream twisted reality? And Christy, did she still have a job? Was she screaming in that half-ruined store, or had she vanished like the rest? I closed my eyes, sinking into a half-slumber as the bus lurched through stoplights and potholed roads, half expecting to wake in that waterlogged high-rise, scanning the horizon for spirals of wind. But all I heard was the hum of the engine and the mutter of some passenger behind me. When I opened my eyes, we were stuck in traffic. A clogged freeway ramp, cars jammed front to back. Through the window, I saw a billboard reading, "My breath caught." Was that real? Minneapolis-South, not a place I'd ever heard of. I rubbed my eyes, but the words stayed. A cold dread curled around my spine. The dream's details had spilled over. Or maybe the dream was never just a dream. I tried not to dwell on it, but everything felt unsteady, as if the bus might slip off the overpass into a watery void. I pictured the swirling funnel again, how it raged through that tower. My reflection in the glass wore the same haunted expression as the people in that dream. The same fear of an unstoppable force ripping through my life, leaving me with nothing but confusion. Eventually, the bus moved on, carried me out of the city's core. I felt no relief. Detroit's outskirts bled into vacant lots and empty fields. The sky turned a flat white. The final stop, I stepped off, alone again. The bus hissed and groaned, then chugged away. I stood in a patch of grass by a chain-link fence. A battered sign pointed to the airport. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but when I pulled it out, there was no call. The screen was black, another glitch in reality. I stared toward that sign, airport, a plane leading me to Minneapolis-St. Paul, then on to Minneapolis-South, wherever that might be. I let out a hollow laugh. The day felt so quiet. No wind, no thunder, just an endless hush under a dead sky. I took a step forward, then another. Soon I was walking, heading in the direction of that sign, mind numb, body cold. Maybe I'd find a flight. Maybe I'd end up in that bizarre half-reality again. The day stretched out like a barren plain. I imagined Billy Bob rummaging for a toothbrush on some far balcony, laughing to himself. Christy, screaming in her bed, phone clutched to her ear. My father searching for me, calling my name, hearing nothing but echoes. I paused and looked up at the slow churn of clouds. For a moment, I thought I saw a swirl forming. My heart lurched, but it was only a trick of the light. No funnel, no storm, just the memory of something unstoppable, a force that turned me inside out. So I walked on, uncertain, half terrified of what I might find. Behind me, Detroit's towers slumped in sorrow. Somewhere within them was that collapsed dream of a storefront, part music, part law, part broken promise. I wondered if it still stood, water creeping up the walls, or if it too had faded away. Time slipped. I reached the airport fence, peered through the chain link at distant planes. Engines droned. The sky was so big it felt empty. I pressed my hands against the metal, breathing slowly, trying not to tremble. The taste of rust lingered on my lips. Was this a way forward or just another dead end? A voice behind me said, "You look lost." I turned. A woman in a uniform, security perhaps, with tired eyes. "You trying to fly out?" I nodded but didn't speak. She gestured to an entrance gate. "You'll need a ticket or you can speak to the desk inside." I forced a smile. "I need to get south," I said. "Far south." She tilted her head. "Well, we got flights to Memphis, flights to New Orleans, you name it." I exhaled, took a step back. The fence rattled. Memphis, New Orleans, or Minneapolis? South, if such a flight existed. My mind spun. Perhaps none of it mattered. I had no plan, no real hope, only that battered desire to run. The woman watched me for a moment, then turned away. "Suit yourself," she said. Her footsteps receded. I gazed at the runways beyond, the dark tarmac. Soon enough, a plane roared overhead, wheels skimming air. For a heartbeat, I thought, that's the flight to Minneapolis-South, but it was just a plane. No sign told me where it was headed. I closed my eyes, remembering that dream again. The swirling water, the broken balconies, the people crying out, the black funnel in the sky. Unstoppable. My family scattered like ghosts, and me, left alone, pounding on a closed door, shouting names to an empty corridor. I felt a cold wave of dread, but I also felt something else, a grim spark of defiance. I'd lived through that storm once, maybe 1,000 times. I was still standing, At last, I stepped away from the fence. I walked toward the terminal doors, water squelching in my mind's eye, thunder echoing in my ears. But in the real world, the day was calm. The airport beckoned. Maybe I would buy a ticket. Maybe I'd ride a plane north, south, anywhere but here. Or maybe I'd keep wandering until the next dream found me. In the end, I didn't know. All I knew was that the ground felt unsteady, like the city might flood at any second, like the spinning funnel was always just behind the clouds. But I kept going, step by step, breath by breath, not knowing if this was sanity or just another illusion. Somewhere, a voice in my memory whispered, "Thank you to the dream and the dreamer." I laughed. An empty sound in the quiet airport air. In that moment, I decided that if the water spout came for me again, I would face it. I would look into its swirling depths and let it know I was no longer afraid. And if it consumed me, so be it. I walked through the sliding doors, took one last look behind me at the overcast sky, and moved on.